Good morning, day 2. It's pretty cold. It's 30 degrees and I think 25 mile an hour wind gusts today. Leaving Hawk Mountain Shelter, I'm going to be hiking to Gooch Gap Shelter, maybe a little bit further, I'm not sure. That's a 8-mile hike, I think. A beautiful day. Pretty windy, but that's okay. You go hike in November, that's what you gotta expect, right? I'll check in with y'all later. Well, here I am. It's been so incredibly windy. Got a downed tree. I need to go over 2 of them, in fact. And the trail is on the other side over there. I wanted to show you something. All I can think of when I see this is the Beatles and Here Comes the Sun. And also, thy light shall direct my path. Awesome. That's what I just had to navigate over. The trails up there had to come through that. That is Sassafras Mountain, getting ready to go up that. Woohoo! That is really pretty. When I said it was windy, I wasn't kidding. There's another tree for me to have to scramble over. People that have finished the AT are probably going to laugh at this because there's so much scrambling to do once you get up into the higher states, the northern states. That is some tree. I just crossed over it. And all I can think of right now is someone I met subscribing to my channel. We've become friends. Her name is A.T. Gracie. She lives in Maine. Gracie, right there, that tree, that represents divorce. You can overcome that, just climb over it. You've got it. For those of you that follow me, you know I'm absolutely fascinated by trees. Look at that. The wind was so strong, it knocked that tree over, and look, I have never seen this before. That thing came down so hard, it split the bark right off the tree. Look at that. That is fascinating. Wow. That's the bark right there that came off of it. Wow, the force of nature, right? Gosh. The fog is starting to burn off. There's the sun. It's currently 32 degrees. And we're heading up that way. Although that is really smoky looking, I can count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 mountain ranges over. That's incredible. Look at that sky today. On the way to Gooch Gap. This is Justice Creek. This is a super water source before you get up to Gooch Gap Mountain Shelter. It's the last water source available until you get up there. And this is just as beautiful as it was in the summer when I was here in July. And you come from those steps that lead way up there, way up that direction. And this trail, once you get water, leads way up and goes up, 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 up. This water source is just so, so pretty. It's picture book pretty. We've left Justice Creek, headed up the mountain, and this is what you run into before you get to Gooch shelter. I just love this. Today, I've been thinking about kindness and grace. And the reason why is because I stayed at Hog Mountain Shelter last night, and I was just falling asleep, and this hiker came in about 8:15. So we are coming into Gooch Gap Shelter, or Gooch Mountain Shelter. I can't remember the exact name of it. Here their bear hangs, and they have a bear box there. I stayed in this shelter in July, and it was awesome, except there were a lot of mice. So you're going to see all this flagging. They've done that for revegetation. There's so many hikers that come through. They rope off areas in order for everything to try and come back. This is a double berth shelter, and it's actually nice because it's got this covered area and the picnic table is under it. So it's pretty nice. And then when we leave here or walk out of the shelter, you just walk down a moment and you can see the signs for tent camping and water and privy. And the water is a little piped water source. I recommend getting water before you come here because you're passing over two very active large streams. You can fill up with water the next day after you spent the night here. The privy is down in that direction. I got out one of these little compressed coins. What I'm going to do when my water is finished boiling for dinner, I put in just a tiny little bit of extra water in there. I'm going to throw that little coin in there so I have some hot water to wash my face and my hands. I was getting the hygiene stuff out this evening and found this hole in the bag with a bunch of shredded up toilet paper on the inside. So the mice got into my bag last night before I had a chance to put my backpack into the bear box. Whenever I stay in a shelter, I always put the floor pad for my tent down. You see? That is the wind coming up from underneath there. And when you put that down and put your system, your sleep system on top, that will help take some of that wind and keep it off of your rear end, the back side of you. You see how the wind is breathing through those floorboards? Yeah. One of the other things I do to streamline my morning the next day is I take my my blow up thing and the case that my mattress goes in, and I put them under my mattress where everything is just right there. Just like that. Put it right on top. Then I'm not trying to root around in my backpacking system the next day trying to find what I need. I wanted to finish my story about the man that stayed in Hawk Mountain Shelter last night. I had decided about 7 o'clock that I was just going to go on ahead and go to sleep. I was tired. You know, it's pitch black. I was the only one there. And he pulled in about 8:15. Kind of startled me. That's okay. That's to be expected. And what I did not expect, though, is him to throw down his backpack inside the shelter and start taking everything out and huffing and puffing, and he was muttering to himself under his breath. That was a little startling. That was a heads up for me. As I listened to him talk to himself, I suggested to him that it might be a good idea if he left his backpack in the bear box. Because there are a lot of mice in the shelter, and the man that had been in the shelter the night before had had the zippers chewed off his backpack, and he was really upset, and he didn't have any duct tape. I was surprised. Anyway, so he went on a little ranting rave about that, and he wasn't ranting at me. He was just ranting because he didn't feel like doing that. And I thought, well, okay, that's fine. And so I said, and I know you just got here and it's dark, but I wanted to let you know that the privy, you know, if you turn to the left and go outside the privy, and the water source is down that way. And he looked at me and said, "What's a privy?" I said, "It's the restroom. It's got a drop toilet here." And he said, "Oh, I'm not used to that. I sleep out of my truck." And I thought, okay, I'm alone in this shelter with this man who is muttering under his breath, who lives out of his truck. And I was trying not to have any preconceived notions about him. And I didn't. I did a good job of it. I think I did a good job of it. Not to give myself too much credit, but I had to, you know, decide and choose that I was going to look at this in a positive way, but still be watchful. Well, he pulled out a granola bar and he ate it, and he threw his wrapper down on the ground. And I looked at him, I said, "Have you ever been backpacking before?" And he said, "No." And I thought, okay, he doesn't know what a privy is, and he threw his wrapper down on the floor. That was a hint. Well, within 30 seconds, and I kid you not, it was 30 seconds or less, there was a mouse that came down and got into the crumbs in that wrapper. Well, he screamed. Now, this guy was about 6'4". He was a huge guy. He was in his, like, 40s, mid-40s maybe. And he said, "Did you see that mouse?" And I said, I saw it. And I said, "Remember, I told you about your backpack?" And he said, well, I can't tell you what he said because it's not repeatable. I said, "Can I just suggest to you that you pick that up, and when you go put your backpack in the bear box, you put that wrapper in there as well. Please don't leave that out, because this is why there are mice, you know, here. It's because people eat inside shelters and they're trying to stay warm. And this is, you know, why there's a problem." Well, he got out all of his things. He finally got settled. It took him about an hour. And do you remember my sleep system video that I did? And how I told you I did a lot of research to try and find just the right mattress, air mattress? Well, I don't think he did any research, because it was the noisiest air mattress I have ever heard. He tossed and turned and thumped and talked to himself all night long, and kept saying, "It's just so cold, it's just so cold." Well, it was about 27 degrees last night, and it was very, very windy. In fact, it was so windy that there were tree branches hitting the roof of the shelter. And I could tell he was really worked up into a frenzy, and I cannot over-exaggerate this. He truly was. And I finally looked at him. Now, it's dark, and I finally looked at him and I said, "Listen, would you mind if I share something with you?" And he said, "No." I said, "You need to peace out. You need to peace out. So let's just breathe together. Just calm down. It's okay. I know you're frustrated and you're flustered, But let's just, breathe in through our nose, breathe out through our mouth for a little bit, and you need to calm your mind, because you have worked yourself up into a frenzy, and we need to calm down just a little bit. And so he did, and he was very compliant. I wasn't trying to tell him what to do, but I was just suggesting maybe there's a better way than tossing and turning and flailing about the way that he was. He was clearly totally agitated, and it did help. He tossed and turned all night. I did not sleep all last night because of it, and because of that, this has been a short day for me. It's been an 8-mile hike, and I had planned on doing 16 miles today. I did 17 miles the day before, so this was just 8 miles up to the shelter from Hawk Mountain, and that's okay. It's 2:30, and I could have kept going, but I felt like with as windy and cold as it is, it was probably best that I did stay in a shelter tonight, and with mice, and have 3 walls around me. It's not supposed to rain though, and since it was 2:30, I didn't think that I would have enough time. Excuse me. Nose drool. I didn't think I would have enough time to get as far as I wanted to go before it turned dark, so I thought this was probably the better thing to do. If I kept hiking, it was going to be a higher elevation, about 500 to 800 additional feet of elevation, and it's only going to be colder and windier up there. This was the choice I made for tonight. Anyway, back to this gentleman. He was shivering so violently last night. I was really concerned for his health and his safety. And I asked him, and I asked him, did you go to bed with wet clothes on? And he said, I did. I said, do you have dry clothes? He said, I do. I said, would it be okay if I just shared a little bit of information with you? Because you may not know. And he said, no, I don't know anything. Anything you want to share with me would be fine. And I thought, bless your heart. I said, please don't ever go to bed when it's cold in wet clothes. You could get hypothermia, and you could actually, that could be fatal. So please don't do that. You always have to change out, even when it's freezing cold and windy, and you have wet clothes on. You just have to put dry clothes on to get in your sleeping bag. And he said, oh, I didn't know. It really, really bothered me. And then I said, there's one last thing I'd like to, well, actually, I said, there are 2 last things I'd like to ask you. You do have a water filter, don't you? And he looked at me kind of weirdly. I said, are you drinking out of a cup? Or are you drinking out of a water bottle? He said, I have a water bottle. I said, are you filtering your water? And he just looked at me like he didn't know what I was talking about. So there was nothing I could say. And the last thing I said was, I want to share this with you, but I'm doing it with grace and kindness, because you don't know, and everybody has to learn. We don't all know everything, and I certainly don't know everything. I'm learning myself. When you come into camp about 8 or 9 o'clock, that's hiker midnight, and that's when everybody is already asleep. They've already eaten, they've already done everything, and there are a lot of people that come into camp after 8, 9 o'clock, but they're very quiet, and they don't throw their things down on the inside of the shelter and scream because they saw a mouse. And I know that you were startled, and that's okay. And he said, what happens? And I said, well, they might not respond to you as kindly as I did. And he said, oh, do you mean that they would be pissed off? Now, those were his words. And I said, probably. So just, be thoughtful when you come into camp, and if you want to hike and you want to arrive later and it's after dark, just have a plan and, be thoughtful of the people that are around you, because often these shelters are full of people and not just one like me. And he said, oh, okay. And he said, do you think it's going to get any warmer today? And I said, it's going to be 34 today. And I looked behind me all day long to see if he was following, and he did not. And I don't know if he's going to show up at this shelter after dark. I'm kind of hoping that he just turned back around and went back to Springer, because really he didn't have any business being out backpacking. He just didn't, until he's got a little bit more information, or hiking with somebody that can mentor him as he's going along. So my heart went out to him. So one of the reasons I'm sharing this information is that I just think kindness and grace can go a long way sometimes. And as frustrating as that was, and as tired as I was this morning, I had a good hiking day today. And I'm hoping that I'll be able to sleep well tonight and wake up and have a refreshed day tomorrow. So until tomorrow, you take good care, and thank you for watching my video.